meditation. Today, the meditation focus is about being awake and aware, because as a spiritual student and a person that is trying to evolve our being, this is the most fundamental thing that we need to become conscious of, is that we want to wake up, because at a certain point in your evolution, you realize that the vast majority of people, like maybe 98% of people, are not awake and are not conscious. They're going through life just like they just don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're thinking. They don't know what they're saying. They're just blabbing on. They're just, all sorts of things happen to them. They get sick. They have accidents. They worry all the time. Their fear is enormous. When people look at themselves, their fear is enormous. And at some point in their evolution, everyone will become conscious of this and start to wake up and start to look at this. It won't be this lifetime for everyone, but that is the nature of evolution eventually for everyone. But for all of us that are spiritual students, it is this lifetime we wake up, we become conscious, and we start to learn how to create a life that we want and how to radiate energy that we want, and we become masters of our own destiny. So things that we want to do in our life that are constructive and beneficial for ourselves and for other people, we realize how to create things in a way that's in harmony with life. And then all of life works with us. If we want to create our relationships in a certain way, we learn what elements to bring into our relationships so that they flourish and blossom and are beneficial to ourselves and the people around us. I'm going to read one short bit from the Love Matters book, which is just about waking up. I'll just summarize the first bit. It's about, for most people, the waking up and becoming conscious process is quite gentle and quite slow. But sometimes it can have sort of sudden things that happen that make us much more awake because they're a bit of a shock to the system. For my own self, I made a very big consciousness shift at the age of 22, and that really set the course for the rest of my life. But because it was a rather sudden shift of consciousness, and because I was very young, and I hadn't had previous contact with spiritual teachers who knew about such things, there were certain odd things that I did at that age, which are certainly not necessary to do, but it's just examples of all the funny things that can happen to people when they're changing their view of life. And I just want to read two of them. The first thing that happened to me is that my consciousness I became very quiet. I'll read this. In terms of interaction with other people, once you see the stupidity and randomness of most human interaction, you are not so keen to participate in its merry-go-round nature. I went from being a bubbly, chatty young person to a more introverted, silentish adult. I'm not saying people should do this. This is just what happened to me. In fact, I remember very clearly an ex-boyfriend I had when I went to a social function about 22, so he was an ex-boyfriend by that stage. Because I'd gone from being a very bubbly young person to a very quiet young person, he said, he wasn't criticizing it, but he said, "Oh, well, you're certainly doing the be still and know that I am God thing," because we had been in the same spiritual community. So he felt like, oh, it's some spiritual thing that she's doing. But he said, "You really like," it was a Bible reference, "be still and know that I'm God." And it always stayed in my mind because I thought, oh, he actually does realize what I'm doing. I'm trying to understand what God is. And if we keep talking, we can't hear God talking. And the other thing that I did is that I went through a stage of speaking very slowly because I realized that people just are blabbing most of the time. I wanted to become very, very particular about whatever came out of my mouth. So I didn't intend this to happen, but every time I spoke, I was extremely conscious of every single word. But because of being young and inefficient in the whole process, it made me speak very slowly. And when we lived in England, so by then I was about 24 or 25 or something, we had a girl that worked for us, an au pair, and she said, she was rather blunt, and she said, um, you speak very slowly. Can you speak a bit faster? And then after that, I thought, oh, I really must try to speak a bit more normally and not every word so slow. But actually, it just fixed itself up after about a year or so. But I was so quiet at that stage, it didn't really matter anyway.